Welcome to another story made by Oracle One. The sun had long since vanished beneath the sharp-edged peaks of the Appalachian Mountains, leaving the winding streets of Silverbrook wrapped in a cold twilight, where shadows stretched like creeping fingers across the weathered facades of century-old buildings. The town's only remaining mine, carved deep into the earth, was a dark whisper of the past, a scar in the hillside that seemed to breathe with secrets. No one wanted to go near it anymore, especially after dusk. Ethan Hale was different. At 37, he was the last miner employed by the small company that still held the mining rights, trying desperately to resurrect the mine's fortunes. He had grown up in Silverbrook, the son of a man who had spent his entire life underground. To Ethan, the tunnels were not places of fear. They were the veins of the earth, a heritage handed down like a sacred neckchain of memory. He wore an old leather cap with a cracked safety lamp, his boots thick and worn, and a sturdy jacket smeared with dust. He was well aware that the mining company planned to close the shafts soon, but every morning before dawn, he descended into the earth as if answering a summons only he could hear. The miners of old had a tradition, a superstition born from the fear and peril of their work. They would whistle inside the dark, narrow tunnels for luck. The tune was simple but haunting. It fractured the silence, pushing away the oppressive dread that always lingered underground. It was said whistling kept the spirits at bay, or the demons from the deep, depending on who you asked. But the superstitions had faded into legend, a bygone echo in the minds of many. Ethan believed in the whistles. More than that, he thought he liked the quiet better when the tunnels were filled with those ghostly notes. But for the past 2 weeks, Ethan had been hearing something else. Something impossible. It began faint, a quiet, muffled whistle from the twisting corridors deep within the mine. At first, he thought it was a trick of the shifting stone or the wind playing through forgotten shafts. But each time he whistled his single note, the same tune his father had taught him, a faint whistle whispered back. It wasn't random. It mimicked him, perfectly, except slower, lingering with an unnatural breathiness. The eerie echoes didn't carry the lightness of luck, but something else, something urgent and hungry. Ethan tried telling his supervisor. He was laughed off as stressed or imagining things. No one else heard it in the daylight when the others worked. Only Ethan did in the solitude of his late shifts. More unnerving was that each reply whistle seemed closer, deeper in the tunnels, following his every note like a shadow trailing a man at dusk. That morning, the gray light of dawn barely breaking over Silverbrook, Ethan approached the mine's rusted entrance once again, a knot twisted tight in his gut. He knocked his lantern against his helmet softly and started descending the ladder into the cool, fetid air below. The walls dripped water, the pungent smell of wet stone and old iron tangling with the chill in the air. The mine was silent. The old wooden supports groaned under invisible weight, and every breath seemed to float as a ghostly mist around him. He stopped near the junction where the tunnels forked, his heart hammering in his chest. The whistle began again, a breathy note so close he could have sworn it was right next to his ear. He whistled his reply. This time, the answer floated from the tunnel to his left. Ethan tightened his grip on his pickaxe and stepped cautiously, the faint light of his lamp flickering over cracked rock and rusting tracks. The whistle came again, slower, filled with a hollow tone like someone trying not to be heard but failing. He stopped and listened. The tunnel gaped deeper and darker before him. The farther he walked, the more the air felt thick and heavy, pressing inward. He glanced at the makeshift markers along the walls, remnants of previous work, but then his attention snapped back to the sound, a second, third whistle repeating the note, as if a chorus was assembling in the bad air. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept down the shaft, snuffing out his lamp. Ethan froze, heart bounding, fumbling in the dark and striking his lighter. The flame sputtered to life, casting jagged shadows. The whistle answered again, but behind him, frozen immobile, Ethan whipped around but saw nothing but the hollowed tunnel receding into blackness. His mind screamed for escape, but a cold surge of fascination forced him deeper instead. The whistle repeated, lower, closer, almost coaxing like a child's call, but hollow, broken. His skin prickled cold. Minutes passed in silence. Then, from the darkness, something moved. A shift in shadows like a cracking bone. Ethan swung his lamp, revealing a twisted heap of bones half buried in the earth, their brittle fingers grasping toward the tunnel wall. He staggered back, heart thundering, dizziness flooding his head. The whistle came again, a faint, thin cry, then a series of faint, soft thumps behind the pile of bones. Ethan's breath came in ragged gasps. This was no trick of the wind or echoes. Something had been down here with him, something desperate. The stories his grandfather told flickered unbidden in his mind, tales told beside smoky fires. Miners who vanished deep underground, swallowed whole by the earth, their souls trapped in the tunnels, doomed to haunt forever in shadows and forgotten whispers. He raised his battered pickaxe and called out into the darkness. "Who's there? Show yourself." The only answer was a chilling trill of whistles. More than one, rising up around him in a cacophony of echoes, twisting and warping into something almost like laughter. Ethan ran. He stumbled through the labyrinthine tunnels, the chorus of whistles closing in behind him, notes rising in pitch and speed until the very walls seemed to vibrate with them, alive and mocking. His lamp flickered perilously, casting uncertain beams on scuttling shadows. Shapes glimpsed just beyond the light that vanished when he stared longer. He didn't look back, but the whispers followed, now joined by scraping and knocking, like nails tapping against wood, or dragging claws along stone. He burst out of the mine's mouth into the dim morning light, collapsing on the cold earth. The chorus stopped abruptly, replaced by the heavy silence of abandoned tunnels. Weeks passed, but Ethan never returned to the mine. Yet every night when the wind howled down from the hills, he could swear he heard faint whistles, carried on the air like sinister lullabies drifting from the direction of the mountain. When the mining company finally sealed the entrance, placing heavy concrete and warning signs, the town whispered about old curses and restless spirits. But Ethan knew better. Sometimes, when the night is cold and the wind just right, if you stand at the edge of the woods near the mountain's base, you can hear a lonely whistle, a mournful call answered by a chorus of voices from somewhere deep beneath the earth, calling out in hunger and despair. And if you whistle back, only once for safety as the old miners did, you better be ready for an answer, because whatever lives in those tunnels is listening, and it's getting closer. For more stories, like and subscribe.